Well, we'll get going then. Good morning, everybody. A little foggy out there today, huh? Well, I'm glad everybody got here safe. So, welcome to our meeting of the San Joaquin Valley Pollution Control District Study Agency. We have board members participating in person at our offices here in Fresno, Bakersfield, and Modesto. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell phone. Me too. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make public comment. After each agenda item, the chair will announce public comment. The clerk will recognize any public attendees who have indicated they wish to speak. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, good morning. Mr. Chiesa.
I'm here.
Mr. Couch.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mr. Mendez.
Here.
Mr. Pereira. Ms. Shuklian.
Here.
Mr. Rickman.
I am here.
Mr. Robinson. Through the chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, our next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Supervisor McCauley to lead us in that.
All right, please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item is the election of officers for 2026. Samir?
Good morning, Chair and board members. I'll just give a brief presentation on this item and just first start with some context that the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Study Agency Board does select the chair and vice chair every year in accordance with the officer selection policy that was adopted by the board. This goes back many years in terms of that policy. And what the policy does is establish a county-based rotation system that ensures a balanced leadership representation amongst the counties that serve in the board in continuity and that governance that the study agency provides. And so the process under the policy is that the vice chair automatically succeeds to chair in the following year. And the rotation schedule that is currently in place was last amended in December of 2020 and expired at the end of 2025. So it's time to basically adopt a new rotation schedule at the study agency. So in the item before you, we are recommending adoption of a revised rotation schedule that extends the officer rotation for an additional 8-year cycle to conform with the 8 counties that are part of the study agency through the end of 2033. And consistent with that proposed rotation schedule that's in the item, we recommend the following officer selections for 2026. With the chair being the representative from Fresno County, Supervisor Buddy Mendez, who has, by being on the board for the tenure that he's been on, has actually served in the past in that role and would now serve under this proposed rotation. And the vice chair being the representative from Merced County, Supervisor Lloyd Pereira, who's not here today, but would be willing to serve in that. So with that, the recommendation is to adopt this new rotation and to move forward with those recommended roles. I also want to take a moment to recognize the outgoing chair. We have a nice plaque for the service as chair on the study agency, and just wanted to recognize Supervisor Amy Shuklian for your role as the chair of the study agency from, let's read it here, with gratitude for your service from the governing board of the San Joaquin Valley Unified Air Pollution Control District. So
Thank you.
I'll present that round of applause for your.
Do I come down there? Am I good?
No, I think I'll leave that to you as to whether you want to come down here. And,
Jamie.
yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right here. Come on, man.
Make faces?
What's that?
Can we make faces behind them?
Yeah.
So with that, as the chair works our way back to the dais, this item is ready for discussion and action by the board.
Well, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments regarding this item from directors? I don't see any. Do we have any public comment? Okay, well, with that, then I will entertain a motion
Move
for,
to approve.
okay, we have,
I'm going to actually go to the regions to check for
that's right, I
public comments
apologize.
also. Are there any members of the public in Modesto that would like to comment on the study agency adoption of this item?
No public comments in the north.
Thank you. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments on this item?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Is there anybody in Fresno that would like to make public comment? Seeing none and none online.
okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor McCauley and a second by Vice Mayor Nguyen. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
I'm sorry, no,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we need a second from one of our supervisors.
Okay, buddy. Second by Supervisor Mendez.
I guess that'll work.
Okay. Now we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Ms. Schicklin,
Aye.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
through the chair, motion passes.
All right. Well, congratulations, gentlemen. Our next item is the approval of the consent calendar, items 9 through 10. These matters are routine in nature and are usually approved by a single vote. Prior to action by the governing board, the public will be given the opportunity to comment on any consent item. Do we have anybody from the public who would like to comment on a consent item?
Any members in the north that would like to comment on the study agency consent item?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Bakersfield, do you have any members of the public that would like to comment on this item?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Seeing none in Fresno and none online.
Okay. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mendez and McCauley. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Ms. Schicklin,
Aye.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
through the chair, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is public comment. This time is made available for comments from the public on matters within the board's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. It is requested that no comments be made during this period on agenda items. The public may make comments on each board agenda item during the time allowed for public comment. Attention is called to the fact that the board is prohibited by law from taking action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment?
Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? The study agency? Modesto, do you have any public comments on this item?
No public comments in Modesto.
Bakersfield, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Okay, I do have one online. Thomas Menz. Mr. Menz, this is for the study agency.
Good morning, Mr. Menz.
Oh, good morning. I have a general comment. Should I wait?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, Chairman Chuklian, the day dawned gray and foggy and filthy here in Fresno. Worst PM2.5 level since 2024 here in Fresno. And it's a reminder of the bad old days, but not as bad as some of the worst of the bad old days, so it's a sign of progress. It's a timely reminder that we need the Clean Air Act, and we need you to act. It's a reminder that we're still capable of generating enough pollution right here at home to exceed the health standards. And no, it's not blowing in from the Bay Area, and no, it's not all secondary PM2.5 from transportation. So I can't go out and prune my fruit trees this morning. I can't take the 5-mile walk that my doctor ordered me to take every day. And because he cites the National Ambient Health Standard as well as World Health Organization standard of no more than 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually for PM2.5. And my doctor tells me that I'm actually doing more harm than good if I take brisk exercise in air polluted above that level. And so it's also a timely reminder that we need the new 9 microgram per cubic meter standard established by EPA. We need it. And as I'm still smelling wood smoke when I do venture out at night, and I'm still seeing the smoke, coming out of the chimneys during the day, I just want to say the district does a good job of catching the many smoking chimneys I report. Really, they're batting a 500 over these last 10 years, and that's no mean feat. Although at times, yes, I do have to report these scofflaw burnings more than once, but persistence is important, my fellow citizens who like to breathe clean air. But the inspectors do eventually catch almost half of the infractions, at least that I report. And that is, again, no mean accomplishment. This year, your inspectors actually have caught and cited every single home that I've spotted. So you're batting 1,000. And that's my little out of order contribution to the star recognition. Well done. But you need to act to do more. You need to introduce regulations to meet the 9 microgram standard, tighten the curtailment thresholds on residential wood burning, and fellow citizens who want clean air for your kids and your parents, we need to get busy because, as Dr. Sheriffs noted, when you're out walking, it's perfectly obvious where the smoke is coming from. So be persistent. This problem is solvable if we all work together. So kudos to district enforcement. Please keep working. Please keep doing that important work. And I know you'll do your level best to keep achieving. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those compliments, Mr. Menz, and your comments.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other? Okay, do we have any governing board member comments? Doesn't seem like it. Let me move all my stuff out of here. All right, so any other business? Seeing none, then we will adjourn the study session and we will go into our regular meeting of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Board. I will repeat again, we have board members participating in person at our offices in Fresno, Bakersfield, and Modesto. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell phone. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make public comment. After each agenda item, the chair will announce public comment. The clerk will recognize any public attendees who have indicated they wish to speak. Madam Clerk, if we could have a roll call.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chiesa,
I'm here.
Mr. Couch.
Here.
Ms. Escutia Brayton.
Here.
Ms. Lewis, Mr. McCauley,
Here.
Mr. Mendez,
Here.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Here.
Mr. Pereira, Mr. Reyna,
Here.
Mr. Rickman,
Here.
Mr. Robinson, Mr. Rodriguez, Dr. Sheriffs,
Fresno.
Ms. Nguyen, Ms. Shucklian.
Here.
Through the chair, we have a quorum.
I didn't know if it was a competition. All right, thank you. Our next item is approval of the consent calendar, items 14 through 21. These items are considered routine and are typically approved by a single vote. Before the board takes action, members of the public will have an opportunity to comment on any item on the consent calendar. And Madam Council, do you have comment,
Yes.
something to say?
Yes, through the chair, items 19 and 20 are recommendations for final action to approve renewed contracts for the executive director / APCO and the district council. By law, I'm required to provide just a brief summary of these recommendations, which include salary increases of 5% and 1% towards a deferred comp contribution. And with that, I've satisfied the legal requirements
Reporting.
for approval of these items. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, let's open it up to public. comment for
Correction, salary increase of 4%.
Four
1%.
and 1.
4 and 1.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Modesto, do you have any public comments on the consent item?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments on this item?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none and none online.
All right, then I will entertain a motion and Dr.
Second.
Sheriffs with a second by Supervisor Mendez. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Chiesa,
Sorry, aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Brayton,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen,
Yes.
Ms. Shucklian.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you. Our next item is public comment. This is a time provided to members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Members of the public are requested to reserve comments on agenda items 6 through 8 until those items are heard. Each of those items will include a separate opportunity for public comment at that time. Please note that state law prohibits the board from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. So do we have anybody who would like to speak for public comment?
Do we have any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? Seeing none in Fresno. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comments in Modesto.
Okay, I do have one online, Connie Young.
Good morning, Connie.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. So I'm Connie Young, Fresno resident, retired registered nurse, and volunteer with Citizens Climate Lobby, also known as CCL. I also volunteer for the Earth Day Fresno planning team. This morning, it's my pleasure to invite you to Earth Day Fresno 2026, which will be held on Saturday, April 18th at Fresno City College. I was pleased to see that the Air District was one of our first registrants to have a booth at this event. We really appreciate your ongoing participation and support. This year, we're excited to announce that Fresno's first green home and garden show will be held at Earth Day Fresno. It will showcase local businesses that provide clean energy and energy efficient products and services, many of which help reduce air pollution. If you know a business whose earth-friendly products or services should be promoted at this event, please let us know at info@earthdayfresno.org. That's info@earthdayfresno.org. As for Citizens Climate Lobby, you may or may not recall that in August, I told you that CCL volunteers had been asking Congress to protect funding for key energy and climate programs in NOAA, NASA, and the Department of Energy. We have just learned that Congress did, in fact, reject the drastic cuts to all three of these important agencies and climate programs. While we can't take full credit, surely our phone calls, letters, and lobby meetings helped persuade our members of Congress to exercise their authority to appropriate federal funds. With that success in mind, CCL is now asking Congress to protect the National Center for Atmospheric Research, or NCAR. A bipartisan congressional letter recently stated The NCARS research supports a wide range of real-world applications, including agricultural planning, drought and water management, wildfire behavior analysis, flood forecasting, aviation safety, and emergency preparedness. All of these applications have huge implications for the health, safety, and prosperity of Central Valley residents. I hope you too are urging Congress to fund this important resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. And thank you to staff for making sure that we're attending that. Unfortunately, I checked my calendar, Connie. I do have another commitment. So thanks for the invitation, though.
No further comments.
Okay, we will move on to item number 5, always a feel-good item, and that is our star recognition, years of service milestones. Adriana.
Agree. Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Adriana Majovich, Director of Human Resources. It is a pleasure to be here this morning, and as always, an honor to be able to present the following item before you. As you are aware, an essential component to our district star culture is ensuring to recognize employees' contributions. In light of keeping with this commitment, we are proud to formally recognize and show our appreciation to the following individuals who have reached a service milestone during the fourth quarter of 2025. To our team, we appreciate your contributions and thank you for your commitment and service to the district over the years. Today, we have individuals here in Fresno being recognized. And so if they're present, I'm going to ask that you stand and remain standing until all names have been called. We'll start with 5 years of service with William Chen, Senior Programmer Analyst, and Alexis Contreras, Programmer Analyst. For 10 years of service, we have Michael Corder, Senior Air Quality Specialist, and Martin Velasco, Senior Air Quality Instrument Tech. For 15 years of service, we have Donnie Hockett, Air Quality Inspector, and Lily Liu, Programmer Analyst, and Cecilia Roca, Programmer Analyst. With 20 years of service, we have Naomi Calderon, Office Assistant, and Brian Clerico, Supervising Air Quality Engineer. For 25 years of service, we have Dustin Brown, Supervising Air Quality Engineer, Colette Kincaid, Senior Air Quality Specialist, and Patias Young, Supervising Air Quality Specialist. Congratulations, everyone, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I forgot. Is Kesa doing the math? 727 years. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Our next item is to receive and file the annual comprehensive financial report and single audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. I am pleased to present the district's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. These financial reports are prepared by our dedicated finance team with the independent audit conducted by Price, Page and Company, the district's external auditing firm. This partnership ensures that our financial statements are thoroughly reviewed and prepared in compliance with applicable accounting and auditing standards. As part of our reporting obligations, the district prepares both the annual comprehensive financial report and the single audit report, which includes all federally funded grant programs. These audits are conducted in accordance with the Single Audit Act of 1984 and applicable government auditing standards. I am pleased to report that Price Page and Company has completed their audit of the district's financial statements with no material findings. In other words, the district received a clean audit opinion. In addition, the auditors found no instances of noncompliance with government auditing standards. It is my honor to introduce Osvaldo Gutierrez. He's a CPA and the newest managing partner at Price Page and Company, who will provide a brief presentation summarizing the results of our annual audit for fiscal year 24-25. Before I turn it over to Mr. Gutierrez, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to him and his entire team for their professionalism, dedication, and thorough work throughout the process. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Osvaldo. There you go.
There we go. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. And thank you for the compliments. Minor correction. I wish I was a managing partner, but I am not. I'm the
One
newest
day.
partner. Yes. Otherwise, I got to boot Faust off and put me in. Thank you for having us. We have a brief presentation. I believe we can share it on the screen and we'll go over it briefly, but that was a nice summary. So that's a good way to summarize it all. Everything's good. Do we have the presentation up?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, there it is. Perfect. You can go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Sorry. It's a quick agenda. Price Page, in case you didn't know, this is what we do. We've been serving the district for many years. We specialize in governmental audits. Thank you. And it's what we do. So we're now growing, and with new team members inside and new team members that we work with at the district, it's always challenging yet engaging. So we're excited to be here, and we're happy to present this report. We do like to briefly summarize the team members on the audit because one notable change this year is that we do have a new audit partner on the engagement. That's Josh Shiosa. He has an appointment he couldn't miss this morning, so I apologize for that. The reason I bring that up is because it's important for us to rotate our team members, because if we have the same team every year forever, we would do a good job still, but it's not to your benefit. You want to have a mix of new faces, new questions, new challenges, and that's what we did. And I believe we did have some of that, which is good. I mean, that's the whole point of getting a fresh pair of eyes. And we do have some continuity with Jasmine and, of course, myself in the background. So happy to report that was a good mix. We do like to cover this at a very high level because although there's a huge ACFR in front of you, single audit report, and lots of documentation that goes with it, what we do isn't just prepare or help prepare these financial statements. We actually do the auditing that goes into these numbers for us to feel good about them. So as you can see on the screen, we do review internal controls, assessing risks for error or fraud, which is something that, as much as we love Mario and the team, we still have to do our due diligence and ask those good questions and perform our own due diligence to make sure we're doing our own good job, because we're also signing this report as well. So it's a collaborative effort. Obviously, internal control is big. And when we review the current year activity, we always tailor our procedures to make it so it's applicable to the current year and not something that we've done, years before. So that's just what we need to do. Obviously, there's a lot of activity to audit, but some of the larger areas, of course, are cash and investments, nearly $1 billion, revenues, expenditures. It's just, that's what you do when you review and when you perform an audit. The new item is compensated absences. That is GASB 101. The new pronouncements are always throwing some loops for the accounting world, and that's just what the United States government says we need to change. So new rules when it comes to recording the liability related to compensated absences. So that was implemented this year. The net pension liability from K-Sarah, right? There's always a huge amount there that needs to be evaluated. And of course, the single audit, which is the federal program audit, that one is more specifically focused on compliance over those programs. So happy to report, we are providing an unmodified opinion. So unmodified is a clean opinion. Modified, adverse, disclaimer, there's other opinions that can be provided, and we have provided those to other entities. So we are happy to report that this one, it came out good, it's clean. We do perform the audit with the higher standards that are required by AICPA and the government auditing standards. Financial statements are good. The policies that are in place have been applied consistently estimates such as depreciation, your K-SARA pension liability. There's a lot of numbers that are not actual, like here's an invoice, put that number on the financial statements. Some of them are estimates. We believe those are also reasonable as well. And all the note disclosures that follow the balance sheet and income statements, there's a lot of pages there. Those fully explain all the most significant activity on the financial statements. So I encourage all of you to take a look at those so you can understand the district a lot better. But those are also, in our opinion, reflected properly in the financial statements. For internal control evaluation on the government auditing standards report, or AKA the Yellow Book report, we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, meaning there was nothing that we saw or identified that warranted us communicating it and reporting it in the report. So that's good. And regarding compliance for everything but federal, no deficiencies I identified there. So that's great. Regarding the federal aspect of it, that's called, the rules over that is called the uniform guidance. So those are the rules that help dictate what is required for the district to follow for not only receiving the funds, but how to spend them properly. So $19 million in federal expenditures this year on the CFA. Clean opinion on that report as well over the CFA presentation, over compliance, over the use of those funds. And we didn't identify anything there that needed to be reported as well. So that's really a testament to the team. Again, what I said earlier is true. Even though every year there's always usually a clean opinion, we still go in every year fresh, knowing this could be the year. Maybe we're gonna get them, maybe not. But no, really, it's good. And if we have questions, we always talk it through to make sure we're doing our due diligence. So that's important to us. Finally, some high-level communications that we are required to communicate to the board. The significant accounting policies normally don't change. This year it did change because of the GASB 101 implementation. The significant estimates I went over, so there they are. Sensitive disclosures, K-SARA, that no disclosure, I forgot, it's like 4 or 5 pages long. There's just a lot to it because there's some big numbers there. So that is something that needs attention if you do want to look at it. We did not encounter any difficulties during the audit, and we didn't have any significant audit adjustments, meaning there's nothing that was presented to us that we had to materially change to get the numbers right. So that's good. No disagreements with management. We did not identify any fraud or illegal acts. Significant risks identified. That is a newer requirement where we do want to share with the board things that we have to consider. So the things that we have to consider are the management override of controls and improper revenue recognition due to fraud. Those are very standard, and that's part of every audit. The ones that can fluctuate every year are some of those ones after that. So in this year, we identified that there could be unallowable costs charged to grants, and there could be an issue with compensated absences, the new GASB 101 implementation. So we are pleased to report that we don't have any issues with those 4 items. Before, we were not required to share those significant risks because we wanted, not us, like as a nation, all the auditors like to keep that in-house and then change the rules to say, you know what, you need to be transparent, tell them what you're doing. So we are. So we usually get questions about that of, hey, were there issues? No, but we still, again, to prove a point, are being diligent and asking those questions and really making sure that, is there anything else that we need to dive in deeper on top of the normal work that we do? So those are what we did. And that summarizes everything. Pleasure working with the district. Always appreciate working with the team, and it's always a great relationship. And sorry that we have to visit the house story every now and then, but it's part of the requirement. Happy to answer any questions about the financial statements. I know I didn't go over numbers, but it's right in front of you. It's a huge packet, but that's a big summary of the audit and the financial statement report.
Great. Okay, do we have any questions? Directors?
I got one question.
Okay, go ahead.
This is not about the board. Is Bob Price still active in the business?
So Bob Price of Price and Page, he is literally packing up his office this year. So this is the year. Yeah. Some clients, they need Bob, so he's still around.
Well, I knew Bob clear back into the 80s. So
wow.
yeah.
I'll make sure I'll share that with them.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on this item? Bakersfield, do you have any members of the public that would like to comment on this item?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any members of the public to comment?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Osvaldo, thank you. Mario, thank you and your team. I mean, transparency and trust is so important when you're dealing with the millions of dollars that we do and that pass through here. So appreciate all your work on that.
Thank you.
All right.
Alrighty. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, our next item is to approve the district's 2026 legislative platform.
So we're going to have a few individuals as a part of this item. We'll start the presentation with Mark Montalongo, who's our Director of Policy and Government Affairs here at the Air District. And we do have the pleasure of having our advocates both in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. here in the Fresno office also give their updates as to what's happening kind of on both levels of government there. So we'll start with our presentation and proposed platform, and then also at the end, get some feedback from our advocates as well, and then open it up, obviously, to discussion and action. So with that, Mark, let's get this going.
Mark Montalongo, Director of Policy and Government Affairs. Good to be with you this morning, here to present the district's 2026 legislative platform. During this presentation, I just want to talk briefly about why this document is important, why we do advocacy here at the Air District, and go through some of our priorities that we've identified for this coming year. And as Samir mentioned, we got our policy advocates here to kind of give a flavor of what's going on at the federal level in DC and at the state level in Sacramento. So one of the reasons this document is so important is we have the requirement and the authority to develop plans to meet state and federal air quality standards. But we don't have all the authority to make things happen that essentially need to happen. Our primary authority as a local air district is to regulate stationary sources, as you are aware. Mobile sources are obviously a big part of our challenge here in the Valley, and we need help to achieve reductions from other entities. We're active in the mobile source sector. We provide incentive funds to reduce the emissions from mobile sources, but in order to make these incentive programs effective, we rely on the state and federal government. Our partner at the state is CARB, the California Air Resource Board, which has primary authority to regulate vehicles and consumer products. We work very closely with them when developing our plans. We develop and work with CARB on stationary controls on the stationary source side, and then CARB will include their plans on the mobile source side. In California, CARB is also in charge of regulating greenhouse gas emissions, and our authority is to regulate criteria pollutants on the stationary source side, but recognizing there is a co-benefit to reducing GHGs and criteria pollutant emissions. Additionally, CARB oversees local air districts and transportation agencies on SB 375, the MPOs and the COGS, have planning requirements for reducing vehicle miles traveled and GHGs from vehicle usage. On the federal side, EPA sets health-based standards, which are evaluated every 5 years to see if those standards should be tightened based on new studies and research. They then go through an extensive process. If a new standard should be set, that can essentially be a presentation in its own. But if new standards are set, it's on locals and state to set plans to meet them. The federal government also has the authority to regulate trucks, passenger vehicles, planes, boats, and oversee state and local actions to improve air quality. We also interact with our city and county agencies throughout the Valley through our commenting and the environmental review process, as well as transportation and transit plans. The district has a long history of developing and implementing air quality strategies with plans achieving significant emission reductions. Our stationary source regulations since the 1990s have achieved over a 94% reduction in NOx emissions, which is one of the primary drivers of both ozone and PM 2.5. Our incentive programs are recognized as a gold standard throughout the state and nationally for achieving emission reductions. Over the years, we've $7.2 billion in public-private partnership for voluntary incentive programs, which is a huge benefit to improving air quality and public health here in the Valley. While significant air quality progress has been made, over 80% of the NOx emissions in the Valley are from mobile sources. In order to meet the current air quality mandates, strong state support is needed. So at the beginning of each year, your board approves the district's legislative platform that helps guide our advocacy efforts in support of this mission. The platform contains the district's top priorities for the upcoming year that will guide our positions on legislative and regulatory proposals. For example, enhancing efforts to reduce stationary source and mobile source emissions, enhancing efforts to address air toxic emissions and harmful emissions, supporting local ability to develop and implement air quality improvement strategies, as well as enhancing efficiency and effectiveness of implementation of state and federal mandates. So based on these principles and your board's direction, I just want to go through the priorities for this upcoming year. Starting with the first is pursuing new and continued funding for clean air projects that reduce air pollution in the Valley and engaging on new initiatives to ensure we maximize on clean air opportunities. The district already implements some of the strongest regulations in the nation, yet additional emission reductions are still required to meet federal standards, especially given that mobile sources are a large contributor to Valley air pollution challenges and impossible for the Valley to meet its air quality goals without effective mobile source strategies, with incentive strategies a critical part of the overall strategy. Over the past year, this issue has become even more important in the face of significant challenges to the state's ability to move forward with its comprehensive mobile source measures in the face of federal challenges and disapprovals. To ensure that the Valley receives the resources needed to meet air quality goals and mandates, the district will continue advocating for continued funding to deliver cost-effective emission reductions across multiple sectors. At the state level, the district will continue advocating for transformative technologies across various Valley sectors that provide environmental benefits. Key areas of focus are sustainable agriculture, the farmer program, the ag burn alternatives, and also low carbon vehicle and equipment program. Given the recent reauthorization of the Cap and Invest program at the state level being extended to 2045, ensuring state funding be secured and prioritized for programs that deliver the most public health, climate, and economic benefits. Recent state and federal actions affecting the state's ability to implement key mobile source regulations have created a significant emission reduction shortfall in the state's mobile source strategy. In response, CARB works to update its strategy, for example, through the Drive Forward initiative, in order to meet Clean Air Act requirements and maintain SIP credibility. It is critical the state fully leverage incentive-based programs to help close the emission gap. Programs such as Carl Moyer, Farmer, and our Clean Cars for All program. At the federal level, we support the reauthorization of the USDA Farm Bill programs that deliver air quality benefits. The district supports continued authorization of programs that assist our agricultural community, implementing conservation practices, improve disposal methods, and utilize low and zero emission agricultural equipment. Continued support of the California Set-Aside, EQIP, to ensure federal resources can continue delivering air quality and public health benefits here in the Valley. Moving on to the next priority is supporting GHG measures that provide for local criteria and toxic emission benefits. The shift in federal policy on the GHG regulation slightly complicates efforts to address GHG emission reductions at the state level. However, our adopted position has been recognizing the potential impacts that changing climate conditions could have on local air quality and support GHG reduction measures that provide co-benefits to criteria and toxic pollutants to meet our air quality public health goals. Supporting funding to support our impacted communities here in the Valley. Our region continues to face some of the nation's most difficult air quality challenges, home to 7 of the 10 most disadvantaged here in California. Although the district will continue working with our residents and our community stakeholders to ensure their fair share is received, from incentive funding to support efforts to ensure resources are allocated to address impacts and challenges that they face. For example, our AB 617 implementation program. Support continued transformational investment in transportation emission reduction programs. Since mobile sources are a large challenge in our region, the district supports continued investment in programs that reduce harmful emissions from mobile sources such as heavy duty trucks, passenger vehicles, and school buses. Continuing with our priorities, working with the federal government to advance investments in low carbon transportation programs and the surface transportation reauthorization. The district supports reauthorization of surface transportation programs established under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that deliver air quality benefits. Federal programs such as CMAQ, NEVI, and CFI, just to name a few, are essential to help the Valley and the state achieve air quality standards while supporting the transition to low carbon transportation systems. Working with the federal government, including EPA, to advance streamlined and efficient implementation of the Clean Air Act. The district faces increasingly stringent Clean Air Act mandates that are especially challenging given the Valley's unique air quality conditions, its mature regulatory program, and tightening federal health-based standards. Failure to meet these mandates carries serious public health and economic consequences, including potential loss of federal transportation funding, permitting constraints, and reduced local control. The district will continue working closely with US EPA and for our federal partners to ensure the Clean Air Act provisions are applied reasonably, consistent with congressional intent, and allow flexibility for local conditions. Key priorities include timely EPA approval of the district SIPs and collaboration on implementation guidance for any new air quality standards. The next priority is working with the federal government to reduce emissions from on-road heavy-duty trucks, locomotives, and mobile sources. As we talked about, despite the decades of stringent controls, achieving the latest ozone and PM 2.5 standards will require significant additional NOx reductions, as stationary sources under the district's jurisdiction make up 50% of the total NOx emissions inventory, with 85% of the remaining precursor emissions coming from mobile sources. The district will continue to seek opportunities to further progress on additional mobile source reductions to meet federal air quality standards. And then lastly on this slide is promoting the deployment of near zero and zero emission technologies that prioritize near-term air quality and public health goals. We'll continue advocating with state and federal agents, continue advocating for state and federal strategies that prioritize the cleanest feasible technologies to achieve near-term air quality and public health benefits. This includes supporting the deployment of clean energy and alternative fueling technologies such as hydrogen, biofuels, renewable natural gas, and battery electric vehicles. Continuing with our priorities for this coming year, the infrastructure for generation of clean vehicles and equipment. Achieving the state's aggressive zero emission transition goals will require significant upgrades to electrical and hydrogen fueling infrastructure, especially in rural communities. The district supports a coordinated state local approach that includes clear planning, accountability tools, and performance metrics to ensure infrastructure keeps pace with technology deployment and Valley communities are not left behind. The Small Agricultural Truck Fleet Assistance Program at the state, AB 2900 SORIA, was signed into law in September of 2024, which established a state technical assistance program to help these fleets transition to cleaner, compliant trucks, protect the agricultural supply chain, and ensure emission reductions are achieved, the district will continue supporting these efforts for valley fleets. Support efforts that provide cost-effective alternatives to open burning, agricultural waste. The district has implemented the state mandated phase out of agricultural open burning, with final requirements fully effective July 1st of last year. Amid these challenges such as reduced bioenergy capacity, drought, water shortages, and economic pressures on farmers. To ensure compliance and maintain our clean air progress in this area, particularly for small farming operations, the district will continue working with stakeholders to secure state and federal funding for alternatives such as whole orchard recycling, composting, advanced bioenergy, and other clean practices and technologies. Supporting efforts that address drought, water, and air impacts. The San Joaquin Valley is projected to see up to 900,000 acres farmland fallowed by 2040 due to water scarcity and the requirements of SGMA, posing potential air quality, public health, and economic risks if it's not appropriately managed. The district supports dedicated funding for local programs that implement conservation management practices to mitigate air quality impacts and protect valley communities during this transition. Securing funding in support of necessary air quality research, valley-led research efforts have provided the scientific foundation for effective ozone and PM2.5 control strategies, contributing to significant air quality improvements over the last 30 years. To support the attainment of the latest federal standards, including the latest 2024 PM2.5 standard of 9 microgram, the district will work with local, state, and our federal partners to ensure additional funding for policy relevant air quality research. And then lastly, supporting clean air technology demonstration efforts. Achieving the latest federal air quality standards will require transformative measures and widespread deployment of zero and near zero emission technologies across multiple sectors. The district will continue its state and federal partnership, in addition to local resources, to advance clean technologies for heavy duty trucks and off-road equipment, agricultural equipment, passenger vehicles, locomotives, and freight systems. The last of the priorities are these last three here. The first is supporting the development of underfire charboiler technology, certification, and demonstration efforts. Addressing PM2.5 attainment challenges and community impacts from commercial underfire charboiling operations requires continued technology demonstration efforts to ensure effective and practical emission reduction solutions are available. District supports establishing uniform state and federal certification requirements, along with real-world demonstration and certification programs to accelerate the deployment of proven technologies in coordination with air districts, CARB, US EPA, and other partners. Supporting local and state efforts to reduce the availability and use of illegal fireworks. Firework emissions continue to cause short-term but significant air quality and public health impacts in the valley during the holidays, such as the 4th of July and perhaps on New Year's Eve, with the effects on neighborhoods where street-level fireworks are prevalent. The district will continue to support efforts to reduce the availability and use of illegal fireworks and promote cleaner alternatives to large-scale fireworks displays to protect public health and improve air quality. And then lastly, supporting adequate resources and policies to reduce the impacts of wildfires and their attendant public health impact at the state and federal level. Wildfires have had the ability to generate air pollution that can exceed all industrial and mobile sources combined, causing extreme PM and ozone levels, significantly impacting air quality progress in the valley. The district supports state and federal policies, funding, and coordinated efforts that reduce wildfire intensity and frequency through forest health treatments, prescribed burning, fuel reduction, and improved land management while protecting public health, and air quality. The district also supports resources to mitigate wildfire smoke impacts, including funding for prescribed burn support, cleaner backup power alternatives, real-time air quality information, and clean air centers to protect our vulnerable communities during smoke events. Next, on the state budget advocacy side, under the district's leadership, there's been tremendous success with our stakeholders and partners and legislative delegation to secure substantial funding in the state budget and improve air quality and public health. Over $1 billion in funding over the past 10 years. In recent years, as you're aware, the state has experienced, significant budget deficits, reducing the availability of funding for clean air and other programs. Farmer funds have been reduced from a peak of $150 million per year to just $2 million per year in fiscal year 24 and 25. And as recent as last year, there's been zero funding in the 25-26 state budget. But we've had continued success in securing air quality funding, such as our community air protection program, securing $100 million in statewide funding in the 25-26 budget, as well as getting a $250 million per year continuous appropriation over the next 20 years, where we should get that funding. The governor's recently released last week his 2026-27 budget proposal. They've identified a $2.9 billion deficit compared to the LAO's estimate of $18 billion. There's currently funding under the Community Air Protection Program of statewide funding of $177 million. The district will get its fair share of that. And there's also funding for a new light duty ZEV incentive program of $200 million. There's still no funding for the farmer program, alternatives to ag burn, and clean cars for all, which are all air quality priorities for us this year to obtain some funding. The district is currently working with a broad coalition of Valley and other stakeholders to ensure our funding priorities are effectively communicated and supported through the legislative process. Starting with farmer, we're requesting $200 million per year statewide. The farmer program, as you know, administered by CARB, funded through local air districts, expedites the turnover of high emitting agricultural equipment such as tractors for cleaner and zero emission equipment. Since 2017, investments in the farmer program, complemented with matching funds, have resulted in significant emission reductions, over 389,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent and 29,700 tons of harmful air quality emissions, such as particulate matter and NOx. To illustrate the tremendous success and clean air and climate investment opportunities under this program, the district currently has over 6,600 applications, representing about $665 million in funding demand, resulting in an estimate of over 4 tons per day of NOx reduction potential. Obviously, there's a large queue that the district has. Obviously, we need funding to get those projects kind of moving forward. This program is really oversubscribed and addresses a key mobile source strategy, ensuring surplus, SIP credible reductions critical for meeting attainment deadlines. These projects are shovel ready, highly cost effective, where 62% of the pending applications that we have in our queue being uncontrolled tier 0 equipment. So lots of potential there. As you are aware, in July 2025, the district had to temporarily suspend the acceptance of new applications under the farmer program due to significant volume of applications, which far exceeds the amount of available funding. We also have a request of $75 million per year under the alternatives to open burning. The San Joaquin Valley, in partnership with CARB, has implemented the first of its kind strategy to phase out agricultural open burning to date. A total of 229 million in local and state investments have been provided to growers across the valley. These investments have been vital to the success of the agricultural burning phase out by enabling continued expansion of chipping, composting, bioenergy, and other beneficial alternatives, particularly in the face of persistent drought, limited biomass facility capacity, and evolving land and water use policies such as SGMA. Through these efforts, growers have implemented alternative practices on 314,000 acres of orchard and vineyard removals, diverting over 8 million tons of agricultural material from open burning. These actions have resulted in reductions of over 72,000 tons of harmful emissions. While the Valley has made significant progress in developing sustainable alternatives to open burning, additional funding is urgently needed to sustain this momentum, especially for small and mid-sized farmers facing the costs of this transition. The third request that we have is clean vehicles and equipment, requesting $200 million per year statewide. The loss of California's federal waivers has constrained CARB's mobile source programs, creating a significant emission reduction gap that must be addressed while alternative strategies are developed. The district recommends $200 million in sustained calm water eligible incentive funding, which could deliver over 8,000 tons of criteria and toxic emission reductions statewide by accelerating the deployment of cleaner vehicles and equipment and supporting infrastructure. Local air districts are well positioned to deliver these cost-effective reductions quickly due to their program expertise and strong community partnerships, helping ensure progress toward our SIP commitments. Extensive and ongoing engagement with the legislature and the governor's office will be required in the coming months. As soon as next week, we plan on heading to Sacramento to convey our message, tell our story, and the needs that we have here in the Valley, with a focus on shovel-ready, cost-effective programs that reduce air pollution and improve public health. Lastly, on the federal side, working to ensure a constructive relationship with our federal administration will be essential given public health importance of meeting our federal air quality standards and the ongoing threat of economic sanctions under the Clean Air Act. In the coming year, we will continue educating the administration and our congressional delegation on the Valley's unique air quality challenges, the progress and our needs, working with US EPA on effective Clean Air Act implementation and timely approval of our attainment plans and regulations, working with US EPA to advance action on clean data and exceptional event demonstrations, while also working towards the goal of securing federal resources and tools to continue to reduce emissions from federal sources here in the Valley. That concludes my presentation this morning. Turn it over to Samir, see if there's anything you want to.
Yeah, and I just wanted to just thanks, Mark, for laying out what is, as you board here can tell, and the public, quite a bit of territory covered by the legislative platform, and it has been the board's tradition to really try to build a strong coalition to help address the air quality challenge. So I'm really proud of the ongoing continuous improvement that we've made to the platform to keep being responsive to the board's direction, ideas that have come up along the way. There's been quite a bit of enhancement again this last year, and I think that we are well positioned to operate in what is a very complex environment, both in Sacramento and DC. So I'll stop my comments there as a way of transitioning also to introductions for both of our advocates who are here today. And I know there are some requests to speak by board members, so I'll just make the chair aware that it's something we could either do now and have some conversation on the platform, or we can maybe wait until the comments have been made by the advocates. But I'll turn that back to you, Chair, for that.
Council members Scutia Bratton and Supervisor Rickman, is that something you can wait, or did you have a question specifically for Mark?
I have a question specifically for Mark, but
Go
I
for
can
it.
certainly wait as well.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Mark, that was an excellent presentation. As Samir indicated, it is very complex and there's quite a bit to it. So we're definitely getting our money's worth out of you and on this subject. Let us know how we can help. But specifically on slide number 9, you referenced the Community Air Protection Program. Give you a second to get to that. My question was, congratulations in securing the 250 million moving forward continuously for the next 20 years. But under the governor's January 26-27 budget proposal, the funding for Community Air Protection Program is 177 million. So can you clarify for me, is this a subset of the 250 already allocated, or is that in addition to?
It's the same, actually. It's not going to be, the first year won't be 250 million per year. And the governor's budget that he released last year for this upcoming fiscal year, it'll be capped at 177 million, given that that program is funded through the cap and trade revenues that come in. So we'll need strong auctions to ensure that the program funding gets funded.
If I could just through the chair, just add a little bit more flavor to that. It's a great question, and as complex as this presentation was, I think the budget complexities are I think would make this pale in comparison. What's really going on, to Mark's point, to go down one more level, is that the way these continuous appropriations were designed, they weren't designed. There's a lot of complexity to them. So there's the funding that gets allocated directly and in a set amount. There are some continuous appropriations for that, such as high-speed rail and the $1 billion appropriation for that. There are other appropriations like this continuous appropriation that are what I would call a secondary priority appropriation, where they're dependent on how much projected cap and trade revenues there are. And if there's sufficient revenues projected, then they are funded up to that level. But if there are projections that are below a certain level, once you take the other continuous appropriations off the table, then they're kind of adjusted proportionally. And so given that is really the first step of the budget process, and it plays out all the way till June and actually really into September because of the trailer bills, what's going to happen over the course of months is there's going to be more projections made. There's going to be another auction or two on the cap and trade. That'll impact, I think, the projections of how much funding is to be expected. And so I do see this number changing over time as that kind of plays out over the next several months. But it is a great question, because that 177 basically is the proportionalized amount of that $250 million continuous appropriation based on the projected revenues, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
Well, actually, as complicated as that was, it is more clear now. But regardless of where that number ends up being, can you give me some examples of what is funded under the Community Air Protection Program?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And we had a good presentation at the last meeting that I think did a good job at a high level of sort of outlining. There's really a couple of facets to the program. One of them is the continual work that we do in the community to convene conversations, to convene different agencies to identify and address the priorities. So there's the local sort of community engagement component. The bulk of the funding goes into reducing emissions. So there's a variety of incentive programs that are funded by those funds. They're value-wide. So we implement over a dozen different grant programs through those funds. More eligible programs like ag equipment replacement, for example, are one example, like on the heavy duty side, all the way to doing programs around purifiers and some of the other things that the board's also supported in the past. There's quite a wide range of programs, and we talk about those allocations through the budgeting process. So a little bit later in the year, as we talk about the incentive spending plan, for example, for the coming fiscal year, we will take a look at how much of these funds we're able to receive or project to receive in that year. And then given kind of a wide range of potential opportunities and the board's priorities, we will kind of take those funds and program them into specific programs throughout the year.
Wonderful. Thank you for your answer. No more questions.
Thank you. And you can wait, right? All right.
All right. Well,
Go ahead, Mark.
I'd like to introduce our policy advocate at the federal level, Lynn Hawkes from HBS, who has represented us for many years in Washington, DC, and appreciate her coming in person into the
Yes.
Valley to be here with us this
Good
morning.
morning, Lynn. Welcome to sunny California, the Golden State.
There we
Yep.
go. Yes, I had a very adventurous drive down from Sacramento this morning. So, but the sun rising over Merced was quite a sight as I passed by. So thank you for allowing me to be here. And I just want you to know that prior to entering, I did remove my neck brace that I put on due to regulatory whiplash that we've had over this past year. Okay. However, I have not deserted it because more is coming. And to that end, our agency that we primarily interact with has led the charge, EPA, in that regulatory rollback and unprecedented 31 actions that we have been monitoring over this past year, along with several executive orders. And we expect much of that activity to continue. But as has been the norm, unfortunately, the last several years that we have come back to report to you, we are still in the throes of FY26 federal agency appropriations. But I am happy to advise that the Senate today will initiate the final vote on the Interior EPA appropriations bill, which will fund that agency then through the remainder of this year. The rest of the bills, you all know, longest shutdown in history and impacts of staffing and things like that. But the EPA programs will likely pass today, be signed into law, and at least will be funded through September 30th of 2026. You may recall that we had reported initially that in the president's skinny budget request, because again, the FY25 appropriations package had not been passed by the time the budget was due, had really proposed some very significant 50% cut to the EPA budget. However, Congress did not agree to that level of $4.4 billion, and instead its House and Senate packages, negotiated packages, essentially maintain level funding for the EPA at approximately $8.4 billion. And most of the programs, other than those that were rescinded, other than those that were passed in the IRA 3 years ago, and then rescinded last July in the reconciliation package, every other program is just about federal, is pretty much level funding. And that includes the Targeted Airshed Grant Program, for which we receive a significant amount of funding for our constituents and stakeholders, and that is at $67.5 million. And again, every year I advise you all that when we started that program, because we were the initiators of it, we were at a $10 to $15 million level. So really pleased, but keep trying more and more, right? And the same thing goes for DERA, the diesel emissions reduction, is that we are at $90 million there. We consistently request $150 million, but working in this budgetary environment to try to increase those programs that can go to some of our programs. And as Mark and Samir, had indicated in the legislative platform, and again, the yin and yang of federal policy, you all have seen it, but we sort of maintain it's a balance between a mandate and an incentive. And whichever way the federal policy is choosing to go at any given time, we adapt in that environment and make the argument for incentive and funding, robust funding for whatever projects are going to assist the district in meeting its mandate under the Clean Air Act. So DERA does that, Targeted Airshed does that. Our surface transportation bills and the funding there does that, which we will be focusing on. And some of our farm bill programs also provide the incentive programs to do that. So we do not yet have a farm bill authorization, which includes some of our research programs focused on ag burning and other kinds of techniques. Hopefully, they will process and pass a farm bill this coming year. It was extended in the last continuing resolution through September 30th. So there's a little bit of time to do that. The House has been very active in that space and has included a significant amount of funding for ag research in the emissions reduction space, which we're very pleased by. But the Senate has not really yet thrown down a marker. So we're working a lot in that. The other thing that I kind of wanted to point out in the appropriations process was the continued initiatives on community project funding, so-called earmarks, and specific designations for district projects itself, as well as partnering with other local entities in order to obtain the funding that will support our platform and our objectives. I am pleased, actually. So Secretary Rollins was just out in Southern California this past week, Secretary of Agriculture, addressing the annual Farm Bill conference. But the week before, she had unveiled priorities for the coming year for USDA and a renewed prioritization of biofuel and other kinds of activity is in that platform, and we will be very active. In years past, we've been active in that, and we will be active again and again on the funding side of things to see if we can bring anything home. So we have EQIP funding that was approved in the reconciliation bill in July, and working on the California set aside for that to ensure that funds come directly to our growers again to help reduce from the emissions and conservation practices. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions to the extent that I can.
Through the chair, just one quick comment. One thing I wanted to add is, in addition to Lynn and her team being fabulous to work with, and they've been very, very active in a complex space, is that we do have our continued sort of attention on the potential of going back to DC sort of at the right moment as some of this stuff shakes out, whether it's on the federal SIP side, with EPA or or some of the funding pieces. We're always kind of mindful of the role that having an in-person presence with some board members and with recommendations, that's always something that's kind of front. So that's something that we'll keep the board updated on as there seems, if there's a window where it makes sense for us to be out there, there's an active conversation about that, and we'll always keep an eye on that. So just wanted to note that that's something that's part of the conversation as well. So.
Dr. Pacheco-Warner, did you want to?
Yes, thank you. So thank you so much. I think in terms of some of my questions, really to start off with the state budget, really thinking about what is the progress thus far that has been made around the charbroiling issue? Are we making progress year to year? And if not, is there a need to kind of find a champion in that? I know that you all have discussed the difficulty in terms of some of that. So I'll start there.
Through the chair, just wanted to note one thing, that we do also have our Sacramento advocate here who will also probably be speaking a bit to budget. So I wasn't sure if maybe if we could.
Everybody.
Yeah, so we'll have Sylvia maybe come up here in a second, and then and I do have a note. I will come back to that question and other questions too that may come up. I just want to make sure there's awareness.
We'll do that, yeah.
So if you could introduce, if that's okay with the chair.
Questions?
Any questions for Lynn specifically?
And would it be, I guess another question would be, do we stick to federal for as long as we need to here and then go to state, or do you want to?
Let's do that. If we have any questions for Lynn, did you have one, buddy?
I think we have this conversation every time I see you over the years. It's about the toxic level in the House and Senate. I think it's continued to get worse. I'd like your opinion on that, because they're basically sausage makers, and now everybody thinks the sausage is bad, so nobody wants to make it. in a compromise,
Yeah, yeah. And usually Supervisor, thank you for that. As you know, sometimes I come out and share my fun facts, such as the lowest number of House bills, the lowest number of bills ever signed into law last session, 40. The number of executive orders, because of the lack of congressional activity, is slated to surpass a 12-year total by conceivably the end of this year. And the ray of sunshine, quite frankly, is after the record 43-day government shutdown. The Appropriations Committee and the negotiations bicameral reasserted itself, and some longtime members and some new ones, quite frankly. Senator Moreno, for example, Senator Curtis on the Republican side, Senator Wyden, and of course Patty Murray on the Democratic side, and then the House did come together, if you will, and reassert the congressional role in the appropriations process vis-a-vis impoundment concerns and other kinds of things. But when you have a Congress who does not or is not able to or chooses not to exert the authority, the executive is going to step in and try to input policies. It is understandable. So back to that point, the razor thin majority, which just got even thinner due to resignation and untimely death. We are down to essentially, it's only a 2-vote majority. We are 218 to 213 right now. We have some special elections coming up, obviously. And some of our Republican colleagues in the caucus will say it's actually a 1 vote because you never know what Congressman Massey is going to do. So it's really down to a 1 vote in the House, which you can imagine on any given day, you can only have one, if you're going to pursue a partisan only policy, you are not able to get it passed. So, the difficulty of doing that has increased exponentially this second session, on top of the politics coming in the midterm. So, it is a different era. And those of us that adapt and have worked through 8 administrations, and I don't know how many, congressional sessions, adapt as well. And I am, cheered by the increase in the number of members in the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is, the blue dog, the old traditional sort of bipartisan activities. But having said that, click bites and social media presence and, rhetoric, vituperative rhetoric and other kinds of things rule the day because it's a different type of external communication model that everybody's adapting to. But there are, I still firmly believe that most legislators come back to try to legislate, and then it's our job from an advocate's perspective is to advise them best on how to do that. That's in our interests to some extent. So, and welcome all of you. Please come back and walk the halls with me so that you can, help me.
We're laughing because I played a trick on her the last time we were in Washington, D.C., and it was a pretty interesting trick.
I'm counting on that again.
Our colleagues completely speechless. With an ashen look, speechless.
But we survived.
Yeah. We didn't get in a fight with anybody in the elevator either.
Exactly. Which these days,
well, we won't be sending Buddy to Washington, D.C. this year.
Well, that was actually very nice.
All right.
Okay, no, but thank you for explaining the paralysis.
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco-Warner?
Yeah. So I know in the past, we had been depending on a lot of these big ticket grant programs to be able to gain some funding for some of what's in our platform. And I'm wondering if you see any benefit in through some of what we've outlined in our platform and some of what we know that funding has been pulled back from, and I'm thinking particularly infrastructure, but really not limited to, is there any benefit in working with partners to put forth a bill for specific projects? I do see that there's a lot of, in the appropriations, there's a lot of like sort of projects that are being funded. And so I'm wondering if that's sort of an approach that would be beneficial on our front as well to, and when I say partners, I do mean like local governments and private and all that, to pursue like from a bill front rather than more money for grant programs that we probably know won't be successful.
Yeah, so you can't have the latter without the former, and the prospects of a standalone piece of legislation passing in any form whatsoever, unless it's the naming of a post office, is minimal. We do partner, but we also go for. So I would characterize the congressionally directed spending as more of a standalone piece of legislation, because that's an appropriations request, a specific project of which we are the beneficiary and would receive the funding if it goes through, right? So that we have and are developing a very aggressive list of projects and targets for that, right? But at the same time, in the formula allocation programs and in the competitive discretionary grant program area, we have to advocate for the overall level of funding, such as targeted airshed, of which we get a big piece of, right? Such as DERA. And in the infrastructure space, very pleased, Secretary Duffy is a good secretary at this point. He has policy things to go through, but also as we are approaching surface transportation, we did get, the electric vehicle infrastructure funding back. He has been, I think, a reasonable voice in pursuing some of these things. You just have to justify them under a different name or description. And so we will do that in terms of the surface transportation bill as well. And in that instance, I think obviously having our local COGS and our other partners, it will be helpful for that.
Lynn, thank you for coming and putting up with the fog and making it down here safely.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your work over the years on behalf of the Air District and for the health of our communities. Really appreciate you sharing your observations. So I'll ask a question just to keep you talking. You answered a little bit in the last, but for our platform, for our goals, what's most likely to succeed in the next legislative year? Where in a sense, where's the most bang for our buck in terms of working? Because I can see some things that, well, that's probably not going to happen. We don't ignore it, but it's probably not going to happen. But other things, well, where are we most likely to get traction, collaboration?
Yes. So I think that in our in the reduction of admissions from our agricultural sector and using the partnerships and the good relationships that we have with the interagency cooperation on that, I think that through Farm Bill funding and through visibility, we have invited the secretary and a couple of the undersecretaries to come out to the Valley to visit for a variety of reasons. And I think that in the Farm Bill, that has a very good likelihood of success, because we have a administration initiative on rural community rebirth and vitalization. And so we're going to use that and incorporate some of the, I would say, manufacturing / technology / clean or lower emission or, alt fuel activities to resuscitate some of those communities, right? And then I think also, although the section 103, 105 funding, which goes directly to us in the IRA, the additional 200 plus, 250 plus million was rescinded and clawed back, we did hold level funding for that. That was specifically on air monitoring. And of course, the concern at the time was that additional funds for monitoring will only lead to additional mandate or requirement or disapproval, perhaps, of some of the elements of what we are putting forward, right? But we kept level funding for that. That was zeroed out, but we kept level funding, and that directly supports our efforts here. So I think the DERA and the targeted airshed and the section 103, 105 areas, and I'm also very optimistic on the surface transportation side of things, because quite frankly, not to share how long I've been doing this, but when we started a mobile source program, right, to address the impact and health impacts of mobile sources, as well as just diversification writ large of our energy sources, the surface transportation bill was the area where we received the most significant amount of funding. First in the bus realm, because it's 80% subsidized by the federal government, but then for infrastructure and other kinds of things. And again, emphasizing not climate change, GHG, but economic vitality, diversification is where I think we will have success. So I'm glad for that process coming up this year.
You want to take over again?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah. Next, I want to introduce our policy advocate in the Sacramento area, Sylvia Solis Shaw with Shaw, Yoder, Antwish, Schmelzer, and Lang, to kind of give the state of play in Sacramento and the opportunities that we're seeking there. So thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Mark. Great. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Sylvia Solis Shaw with Shaw, Yoder, Antwish, Schmelzer, and Lang. Some of you may have worked with one of my colleagues, Paul Yoder, and a couple, Karen Lang, and a few other partners there. So thank you very much for making some time this morning. I think last week, was a very good introduction into the chaos that's going to be 2026. The very first day back, Monday the 5th, that's when the legislature reconvened from its fall recess. On that afternoon, they swore in a new Senate leader, Monique Limon from the Santa Barbara area, to replace Senator McGuire, the outgoing pro tem from Northern California. She had already announced her leadership team and new committee chairs. And of note for the district, the two committees that we do most of our work in, the first one is budget. There's a new budget chair, Senator John Laird from Santa Cruz. He had previously chaired the budget committee when he was in the assembly. So he's one of the members with some serious bona fides in terms of working on a very difficult budget, which we expect to see this year. And then also I would note that there is a new chair of the Senate Environmental Quality Committee, Senator Catherine Blakespear from San Diego County. So all of that was just Monday. And then Thursday, the governor delivered his final state of the state. And that was a nice opportunity for him to talk about some of his accomplishments throughout his term. And again, he took that opportunity to position himself and the state as a bit of a antagonist, if you will, to the current president and his administration. And he really took the time to differentiate what California is doing versus what the federal government is doing. And then Friday of last week, the 26-27 state budget was released. And I know that Mark talked a little bit in his presentation about the budget, but I think one thing that is really interesting, and I wanted to touch on a little bit more, is at the end of last year, the Legislative Analyst's Office, they prepared their fiscal outlook for this year, and they estimated that we would see an $18 billion deficit. And so every year, it's pretty customary to see differences between the governor's administration and the Department of Finance, their estimate, and the LAO's estimate. They're never really aligned. But this year, when the governor's budget was presented, they came up with a $2.9 billion deficit. So that's a pretty sizable difference. And so what we're going to start getting into in the next few months as we begin budget deliberations is how we're going to reconcile those numbers. And a big factor has to do with we're barely starting to see, and for those of you that are county supervisors, you will, I'm sure you've already heard a lot about this, but the impacts of HR1 and changes in federal rules and regulations and funding, and what are going to be the implications, particularly to counties and the state. So that's one item that needs to be addressed. The second thing is that the LAO is also predicting that we could be on the verge of a stock market bust, particularly in the AI and tech sector. And because the state's budget relies so heavily on income taxes, personal income taxes, and we've the state has been able to collect record revenues above projections because of that AI bubble. But the LAO is saying, like, given other historical factors that we're using in our analysis, we think this bubble is going to burst pretty soon. And so we don't know how bad that's could potentially be for the state budget, but it's something that they are considering. And frankly, when after the governor released his budget, the LAO came back with a response and they said, no, they doubled down. Basically, they're like, okay, we hear what you're saying, but you really need to pay attention to these possibilities. So I think that tension is going to continue now until the budget is done. In May, when the governor delivers his May revision to the budget, the numbers could look a little bit different. I think we will have a better understanding of the impacts of HR1 and where the state might be able to backfill some of those cuts. But who knows? We could see other kind of changes at the federal level that shake things up again. Mark also went into some details on the Cap and Invest program, as it's now known, formerly Cap and Trade. And I just want to take a minute to emphasize that having funding directed to the Community Air Protection Program on an ongoing basis is a pretty significant achievement for the district. We've long advocated, once that program was created, and I don't remember the year now, but it was, I don't know. 17. Yeah, in 17, it seems like a lot longer, but but every year we've had to fight to make sure that that was funded, especially considering how many communities are part of the program here in the Valley. But now we know that there will be a certain level of ongoing appropriation. So that's a big success. But I think there was a question from a board member about, the differences in the numbers. And that has to do with the Cap and Invest market. Revenues had been trending down significantly last year because there was a lot of uncertainty about whether the program would be reauthorized or not, and the markets reacted negatively. And even once this bill was signed into law, the November auction still was a little soft compared to prior auctions. So I think one thing for us to keep a look at, or make sure we pay close attention to, is what those auction revenues look like. Will they continue to increase? Are they going to stay at the current rate? I think Samir and Mark have had conversations with folks at ARB about that and about other district priorities, but that's something that we're going to be on the lookout for. Finally, in 2024, there was a climate bond that was passed for $10 billion, a number of different pots available. Last year, 3.2 billion of that 10 billion was appropriated, and the governor's proposing to spend another 2.1 billion in bond funds. I just want to mention that we will be looking to see if there is available bond funding there for climate resilience and ag sustainability programs that we could potentially tap into. And just going back to the legislature, we do note that the Dems do retain the supermajority in each house, but because we're in an election year and because new congressional maps were approved as part of Prop 50, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of movement in election years that we don't see in the off year. But on the Senate side, Senator Ana Caballero will take over as chair of the Senate Ag Committee, and Senator Marie Alvarado Gil will remain vice chair. The Assembly, their leaders, the same leader that they had last year, Speaker Robert Rivas from the Central Coast area, and Assemblymember Esmeralda Soria remains chair of the Assembly Ag Committee, and Assemblymember Juan Alanis serves as vice chair. But I would note that now Assemblymember Heath Flora is Assembly Republican leader, and he was served on the Budget Committee last year. So hopefully, and he's been friendly with the district. And so we hope to continue to working with all of those Valley delegation members in pursuit of our priorities. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sylvia. Did you want
No, I
to?
just wanted to also just take a second to appreciate Sylvia and her team. The Sacramento legislative process, both on budget as well as just keeping an eye on all the other like policy bills and everything else that goes into Sacramento is increasingly complex. And so they've been doing a great job. It just, as she mentioned last year, in an otherwise felt almost impossible environment, getting that continuous appropriation. And I think laying the groundwork for one thing I will say is that there's been a lot of the members that Sylvia just mentioned, key Valley members, have been on record at the end of the session last year and now going into the new session of being supporters of having farmer funding be included in the budget, as well as looking at some of our other priorities. So I just want to note that, it's a continuous process, and Sylvia and her team have been doing a good job of voicing the board's priorities as part of that ongoing discussion with the legislature.
All right, Supervisor McCauley.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sylvia, Lynn, and Mark for your presentations. Definitely appreciate it. I have some curiosity around the biomap program. Is that something that was renewed? I don't get the impression that it was. And is that something that the state is still looking at, possibly extending the biomap program, or?
That is a good question. I'd have to get back to you. I don't remember where that ended up.
Okay, yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of conversation around it leading up into December, and not sure where that ended. I know it was scheduled to expire.
Yeah, and I believe the votes were delayed more than, or the vote for that program. There's a recommended retiring of the program by the PUC, and they delayed it, I think, a couple of times already. And so I think it's still something that's in the works. And to remind the board, yeah, we talked about this at the study session. We did, along with we worked with other air districts to recommend, that the program be continued with enhancements, as necessary to address any of the new issues that may have come up along the way. And so we've advocated to keep those types of tools available. Again, with whatever enhancements, may need to be made to it. And we can circle back and kind of see exactly where it's at. Let you know.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Supervisor Rickman. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairwoman. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Quick question. Oh, maybe it's not too quick, but in regards to unfunded mandates, I know in the county side, that's one thing that we're looking at, the unfunded mandates with mostly the budget that way it is. And, what all worries of course, the state can't afford something, they're going to push it onto the counties and expect us to do it for them. How does that pertain to where we're at here today at the air district? Are you seeing something that's going to increase our budget? Any mandates that, through legislation that's going to put more responsibility on us and the state's not going to end up paying it, meaning that we're going to have to foot the bill?
I don't foresee right now any significant additional mandates, but that's something that we're always looking out for. And that's something that in past years we have advocated in opposition to. especially if our analysis is that we're not going to get a lot out of those expenditures. So, nothing on the horizon just yet. And I don't know if Mark and Samir agree with that, but we are very early in the legislative process. The bill introduction deadline is February 20th. So if there are any bills that would add additional unfunded mandates, we would know roughly by then, or if we see any proposals from the administration to do that, that could happen later on in the year, but we're always on the lookout for those types of things. But
I'll just add, I concur with Sylvia's assessment there, but one additional piece to this is that often through the legislative process, there will be amendments made as bills kind of work their way, through the process. And I've seen a general tendency at times by the legislature to go from one, potential model to address a particular issue of interest or concern to one that then very quickly at the end with very little consultation results in some sort of local expectations, that it can increase costs to either us or maybe cities or counties. So it is something that we pay attention to. And, the first step is understanding kind of what's introduced here early. And then as things evolve, that can, happen and very quickly often happens, at the last minute, essentially with almost no or zero discussion often. So it is something that we try to pay attention to. And, it's a long session, so we'll see how this year looks.
All right, thank you.
All right, Dr. Pacheco Warner. Yeah.
And I would say that the LAO was actually really nice this year, calling it roughly balanced. I think is one of the nicest things they've said in years. So and yes, the stock market thing is a real concern between now and May or June, right? That would dramatically change things for us. And so I guess for me, I'm wondering in terms of some of the things that we're very concerned of, obviously listed in our platform, like farmer, right? We're already starting at a deficit with that, but do you have a sense of what other things that we should be kind of lifting up that you feel like if some things were to dramatically change, which ones are the ones that you feel like would be most on the chopping block? Do you have a sense of that? And it's okay if you don't, but
You can go first.
It specific to the district or specific to and our priorities or just
in our
generally
priorities, I think.
I think maybe farmer might be, because we don't have a continuous source of funding for that. Historically, it's either been general fund dollars and when we've had very good, robust revenues or some cap and trade, now cap and invest program dollars. So again, that's where the uncertainty lies. If we do see lower general fund revenues, that could impact ultimately how much we're able to secure for farmer. If the cap and invest revenues come in lower, that could also, impact the amount. So I think question mark, I suppose, is not a great answer, but I
think I hope they're thinking about it too. Like, what is the contingency plan if things do go super south?
I would just add a little bit to it in that, through the chair, just one more observation kind of around that great question, which is that there's kind of a couple of different ways of looking at this. So last year was a deficit year as well. And we saw programs like HBIP funded, which is helpful. It's a helpful program, but they were able to find a kind of a unique funding source. The legislature took all of the HENO settlement funding, somewhere around $150 million, and fully allocated it to HVIP. So in a deficit year, you can often see situations like these where there's a will and interest by the legislature and the governor to fund things. They will find a way to fund things, like even if there's a deficit. So I think, going into this year, Sylvia's correct. It is a deficit year and there's no continuous source of funding. But the question then becomes, to the extent that there's funding in the budget for public health protective things, how do we just make sure that we have a good balance of these priorities that are kind of uplifted in the process. And, so there is interest at this point, I think, across all these different, I think farmers one category. I think alternatives to burning is another category that we need to really pay attention to, given the kind of where we are in our journey, as Mark talked about. I think that especially with focus on the smaller and mid-sized farms, and just making sure that we don't have any major issues there, impediments to that transition. And then lastly, I think this light duty / even heavy duty, but clean vehicles and equipment, so there's farmer, which is really ag focused, but there is a larger transition for infrastructure, trucking, off-road equipment, and other categories where, we have like a high level sort of request on that, because, we do need SIP creditable, locally implemented, cost-effective programs. And so to the extent that legislators can be talking about this in the mix of other programs like HVIP and some of the other ones, which are, again, very important programs, we need to make sure we have programs we can actually put into our plans and quantify the benefits to. And so that is one of our requests as well. And so the question really becomes like, how much funding can we all agree to that is public health protective and advances our air quality goals? And within that, how do we make sure that they're actually cost-effective programs?
Yeah, and like on a non-budget thing though, I mean, the fact that the LAO has come out and said the specific worry around this bubble, we've talked about the data centers, right? And their impact. And I think now is even more important to double up on those community benefits. Should we be left holding the bag on those centers and on the energy of the infrastructure already taken up on the energy front? Really, really important.
Through the chair, I do have a note to respond to an earlier question from Dr. Pacheco-Winter as well. So I don't want to forget that if I could. Yeah, so you had a question about charbroiler technology and sort of how those ongoing efforts have been going. And I'll just give a quick kind of an update on that. We did, and we're happy to report that we have built interagency partnership on this. So we have other large air districts as well as CARB basically working with us now as an interagency work group to really look at this technology, which I think is a major development that was not in place before. I think there's a shared interest in looking at certification of technology, and then looking at working together to actually do more demonstration of technology. And so that is moving forward. We talked about even having a conference to bring together the really key stakeholders. And I want to make updates to our platform, if the board's okay with it, to include I think it's an obvious and something that we certainly have embedded in our strategy, but the restaurants themselves, so the associations, as well as the individual, operators. So we've been working actually with a couple of operators also and doing more demonstration. I'll announce that later when we have all that in place, but I'm just happy to report that we do think that there's going to be at least one, if not more, pretty significant developments in further demonstrating that technology. So interagency is getting better, demonstration is getting better, but with all those positives said, it's still a major challenge, I think, to think about, how do we promote this technology, in an otherwise very difficult kind of environment. Every week, I get in my news feed, which restaurants are opening, which ones are closing. I mean, it's like a very, so it is a tricky environment to operate in, but I think there is some progress there. And as to who can champion this issue, especially on an election year like this one, talking about restaurants and anything that looks like regulation, it's a little bit difficult, honestly, to get a lot of kind of political will on anything that even smells of regulatory on this front. But I do think that with incentives and with just coming up with a more collaborative approach on this, it's really important to just keep moving this forward. And I think there is an interest that we're actually, I think, driving a lot of that interest with our interagency partnerships on this.
Well, that's fantastic that you've even gotten there. So thank you.
Well, I want to thank you and Paul and your team for working in the great hall of mirrors, and trying to navigate. I've got actually two questions. One for you. Do you think it'll make much difference for local county government? Because I feel that two of my colleagues will be, one in the Assembly and one in the Senate, will make for county government.
I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I think it's very significant. increasingly, we are seeing local electeds elected to state office, and it's huge. And, one thing I would suggest, and that I think is very successful, is for you to be in communications with your electeds. That's, what we get paid for. And I work with Mark and Samir on, making sure that our priorities are out there. But if you can call your colleague and future assembly member or senator, it's like gold.
Especially if you mentored them.
Doesn't hurt.
The other question I have, I don't know if you can answer it or Samir's staff can answer. How does cap and steel actually work?
Is that what they changed it to?
No, that's, I thought that was a fake deal, cap and invest. But how does that work? What are they buying and selling? Can you explain that to everybody?
A very high level, I think, because I think anything beyond that, I think we'll definitely, I think I'll probably not get it right.
Well,
but
I don't know is a good answer.
Yeah. No, but I mean, essentially what you're doing is you have expectations that you impose on regulated sources, right? So at the state level, the CARB defines basically what sources are subject to the regulation. There's expectations that are imposed on those sources that they can achieve either through on-site reductions, and it's related to greenhouse gas emissions, and through those reductions in combination with what are called allowances under the program, you can also deal with some of your expectations and mandates through the purchase of these and trading of these credits in the market that are generated, basically through other efforts to reduce, greenhouse gas emissions. So where it gets complicated is that there's a lot of knobs in the program, and you turn them, all kinds of different directions, and costs go up and expectations go up or down. So there is actually rulemaking going on. I want to say that maybe your question, you may not have intended for this to be a part of it, but there is actually going to be a public process now to continue working on the program itself, the actual regulatory elements of it. So that is something that you'll probably hear about more over time as that kind of plays out with CARB.
Okay, it's a typical government deal where they make it so confusing, almost nobody can quite understand the whole thing unless you're actually trading those deals actually in the business that you need these credits, or you need to get rid of credits or whatever, Thank you for your attempt.
All right, Supervisor McCauley.
Thank you, Chair. Quick request for the board. In regards to our platform on the surface transportation reauthorization, I'm hopeful we can include support for our local transit agencies that service federal parks or our national parks, particularly Sequoia, as well as Yosemite. As I understand it, working through the Yards Authority, just a small modification needs to be made in order to make those agencies eligible for federal funding. So I don't know if staff would be able to reach out to the Yards team and talk with them about those specifics, but I think it would be a great addition to our platform.
Chair, if the board's okay with that, I think the suggestion that the supervisor has, I think, is consistent actually with the higher level sort of direction in the platform. So we're happy to do that. And I think we can add a little bit more detail to the platform as it relates to increasing, the eligibility and ability basically for local partners to be able to access these, to basically grow the pie even further, in terms of some of these national pots of funding and actually bringing them back to support that. So if the board's okay with that, if anybody has any questions about the suggestion, we're certainly happy to basically integrate that into the platform. I think it meets the spirit of that, which is to look for opportunities in the surface transportation reauthorization to try to advance, the clean air programs that we or other partners in the Valley operate in this case, transit into the parks.
All right. I don't see any other Board member questions? Do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield?
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments on this item?
No public comments in Modesto.
Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment?
There is.
Okay, we've got a couple coming up.
Morning.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Roger Isom. I'm the President and CEO of the California Cotton Ginners and Growers Association and Western Tree Nut Association. Want to thank you for the opportunity to comment this morning. This is a pretty important issue for us. Couple things I did, and I will call you at some point, buddy, to talk about this. I think just at a high level, that Cap and Invest is a good program, especially for those people that have to comply with it. Where the wheels start to get wobbly and almost come off is how the money is spent to get greenhouse gas reductions. And I think that's a lot of the questions and uncertainty. Farmer is probably the best program to get the reductions that concept was originally intended for. With that, I want to thank and recognize the district. I've been up there in the halls and I've seen the district, been with the district on occasion, and I know that they're working hard to get this funding for this program. So I want to thank the district for that. I also want to let you know our team has already been at work doing the same thing this year and not giving up on it. I want to say the one thing that we ran into last year is that the legislature as a whole has been very, very supportive of the farmer program and even the ag burn alternative program. We really never met anybody that was opposed to it. I think it really is due to the budget crisis. And I think the explanation about the auctions being off the last two auctions because the uncertainty, every indication we're getting is that we'll see that come back. Maybe not fully, but start to come back in this next auction. We'll see. And hopefully then maybe we can see us get funded. The other problem is back to my original point about where the wheels come off, is that how this funding is being spent. One of the big things that hurt us this last go around was $1 billion or so that went to the wildfire fund. That killed us. I fully believe we could have got our money had that money not come out of that program, which for all intents and purposes has become a slush fund. As the budget gets bad, they look to where is the money? The money's in the greenhouse gas reduction fund. So I think that's a fight. The one thing I would end with is that we still, because there's been support, because to Dr. Sheriff's point, this really is where you get your biggest bang for your buck. We need to be the squeaky wheel. We need to keep up there. We need to keep the pressure on. I would, respectfully encourage board members to join us up there, join the district. We're taking every opportunity we can to talk about this program. When the state is saying they don't have the reductions because of what's happened at the federal level, we have ways to get some of that back. And we can get it, the difference between, say, the electric truck rule, which would be 2035, 2037. We've got applications sitting at the district right now that all they need is the funding, and we get those reductions right now and help improve their quality right now as we speak. So anyway, just wanted to thank the district for that. Encourage you guys to keep the pressure up. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate your insights. Thank you. Look who's back. We missed you last month, Manuel.
No, you had a reprieve during December. Manuel Cunha, President Eastern Farmers League, also a member of the CAC. I want to thank first the board. I want to thank Lynn Hawkes and her efforts over the years with Monty Lake of dealing with the research division and all of the stuff that's gone on over the past 30 years. And I want to thank Samir and his entire team. As Roger stated very clearly, cap and trade today in 2026 for 25, 26, 26, 27 is a slush fund for the governor. For him to take $1 billion and promise it out of that for the next 20 years for the high-speed rail is a disaster. It's the destruction. It's misuse of power. I am interested in why the AL only worries about the 19 billion deficit. What happened to the last year's deficit? And what about the year before? And then what happened in 2022, 23? California had a $95 billion surplus. If we all remember that, what happened to that money? So I'm greatly concerned of how this legislature or this governor can manipulate funds like that, but yet the air quality is suffering. One thing I'd like to have, and maybe for the board chair, 900,000 acres gone, before 2035. It will be before 2040. Who gets screwed? The farm community, the working community, the store community of Avenel, Fireball, Tranquility, Wasco. Let me name them. There's something like 27 small communities that are greatly going to be hurt. And does the Sacramento people care about those rural communities? The answer is hell no, they don't. That's my concern. We can fund a dang train and take money out of that and put it over to fire. And I understand the importance of wildfires, but that should come out of the budget, not out of cap and trade. But what they're doing with those funds to deal with it, I just can't. And here we have farmers, 7,000 tractors, 800 million. The government is not going to give us a penny unless, like we showed in the past when we did research, we're going to give our part and we ask the government for their part. USDA, we asked for 50 million in the 24 budget, 25, change of presidents, that money went away for the ag burn piece. So now we're back to 37 million. And whatever will happen with the farm bill is going to be interesting from the ag side. When I sat down with CARB and in December with Roger in his office, when I heard what CARB needs to do to make up the deficit of the emissions issue on the truck was to go after agriculture. What type of crops are we going to grow? How oranges give off an emissions? But I just want to thank the Samir and the staff. We want to be there. We're going to have a real motion to get legislative language specifically to take care of these issues. But thank the board very much, but both Sacramento legislative people. But Lynn, thank you for all your help and work. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. Okay.
Are there any other members of the public in Fresno? We have a few online.
Okay.
First up, Thomas Menz.
Good morning, Thomas.
Good morning again, board. Good priorities. Appreciate the detail elucidated, as well as the rays of sunshine streaming through the fog, and the smog, and the smoke, and the fine particulate matter that's floating in the fog. However, just a reminder, we can do more to eliminate directly emitted PM2.5 here to meet those increasingly stringent health-based standards, which we all support. That's in our local jurisdiction, and that's within our power. Directly emitted PM2.5 from residential wood burning can be eliminated. That's what this board can do all on its own. There's no impediment to your acting to implement more stringent wood burning thresholds. We don't need the feds or the CARB to do that. Under-fired charbroiling, why, I ask, hasn't the district adopted the same measures that have been implemented in New York City? Did we not pledge to act on that in the 2018 SIP? New York City no longer allows new dirty cooking fuels and requires the equipment in existing restaurants to eliminate that considerable pollution from those using the dirty fuels and from the under-fired charbroiling. So why aren't we meeting that most stringent measure requirement now? Wildfires, our worst air is happening in the winter when only wildfire on the horizon is the fleet of old, highly polluting scofflaw wood stoves still operating in the valley. It's no exceptional event. It happens every night. Look at the hourly rise of PM2.5 in the evening hours. We could outlaw the use of these highly polluting wood stoves, as other districts have done. We could solve that in a single item. So not to harp, but there's federal paralysis, there's state paralysis, and then there's local paralysis too, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do what we can do. There's an idea out there that we need to withhold these local measures that we know will be effective. So we'll have them to include in some future SIP. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, PM2.5 is a zero-sum game. If we can implement now, then we don't have as high a hurdle to overleap to meet these increasingly stringent measures that we know are coming in the future. So what's wrong with getting the health benefits now instead of sometime in the future? And just one last note, Supervisor Mendez, cap and trade, confusion, talk to Roger. But if you want an example of a confusing program that no one can understand, look no further than the district's ERCs. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, next we have one more online comment. Christine Zimmerman.
Good morning, Christine.
Good morning, board members. I wanted to just briefly thank staff and consultants for an excellent item and the detail they went into on this. And then I wanted to support and speak to hold up what Mr. Isom said just a minute ago. I'm Christine Luther Zimmerman and with the Western States Petroleum Association. So obviously we are deeply involved and invested in the Cap and Invest program. And I think it is so important that there be certainty of process, understanding of the flow of funding, and ultimately accountability from CARB to the Air District and to the regulated stakeholders as these changes go into effect. So I just wanted to support and uplift what Roger said and say that we are committed to meeting with board members, working with district staff, and working toward the goals that Roger outlined and toward just a general understanding and improvement of the Cap and Invest program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christine.
No further comments.
Okay, no further comments. Then I will bring it back to the board for a decision.
Move to approve with the suggested modifications.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor McCauley and a
I'll
second
second.
by Dr. Pacheco Warner. Sorry, buddy.
It's all right.
Roll call, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Miss Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Yes.
Ms. Lynn,
Yes.
Ms. Shucklian,
Aye.
through the chair, motion passes.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Lynn, thank you. Sylvia, thank you. Tell Paul his favorite Tulare County Supervisor said hi. All right, moving on to our next item. This is to accept $12,500,000 in state vehicle replacement funding to support the continued implementation of the district's Drive Clean in the San Joaquin.
Right. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Brian Dodds. I'm a program manager in our grants and incentives department, and it's always my pleasure to be here with you to discuss our incentive programs. And today I'm here to talk about some additional funding that we have for our vehicle replacement program. So as your board is well aware, reducing mobile sources of emissions, which make up a majority of the valley's emissions, is necessary to meet the federal ambient air quality standards. Our voluntary incentive programs play a key role in reducing emissions through clean air partnerships with businesses, the agricultural community, public agencies, and residents by providing financial assistance to support the transition to the cleanest technologies. Our Drive Clean and the San Joaquin program provides Valley residents with options for reducing emissions from passenger vehicles with a focus on reaching residents in typically underserved communities. The district's vehicle replacement program was approved by your board in 2014, and since then has served as a model and a leader for what has become the state's Clean Cars for All program. Since 2015, we've received over $120 million in state funding to operate this program, which has resulted in nearly 11,000 high polluting vehicles being replaced with cleaner and more fuel efficient models. Incentives under this program are available up to $12,000 and depend on the income level of the participant, whether or not they live in a disadvantaged community, and the type of replacement vehicle that is being purchased. The district and our program partner Valley Can have developed a unique and effective outreach strategy for program implementation, and we utilize a grassroots community-driven approach to reach low-income and disadvantaged community residents throughout the Valley. The primary mechanism that we've utilized for program participation is through weeknight community-based events, which are held at a local business, oftentimes a restaurant, a pizza place, or another local restaurant that can support our activities, or a public space and have been a great opportunity to engage community residents about the program. Over the last 2 years, we've held over 250 of these weeknight application events throughout the Valley. They've proven to be extremely effective in engaging residents who otherwise may not have been able to participate in these types of programs. At these events, Valley Can engages with residents and participants. They answer questions about the program. They help support submitting application materials and collect that, and any other assistance that might be needed. In addition, we've utilized existing relationships with community-based organizations to communicate program information through their networks, as well as social media to conduct localized outreach to connect with residents. This outreach approach has been recognized for its success in reaching residents most in need, with a UCLA Luskin Center report highlighting the district's ability to reach residents in underserved community, which stated that our efforts appear largely focused on reaching low-income communities and communities of color through a variety of outreach approaches while still attaining emission reduction. So really trying to achieve all of the goals of this program and achieving emission reductions at the same time. Since relaunching the program in October 2023, we've experienced tremendous growth and demand for public funds or program funds. In just over 2 years, we've received over 8,000 applications, which represents nearly $100 million in program funds. Based on this program demand in October, we had to stop accepting applications since the applications exceeded available funding. And we're currently working through the application queue that we have for this program. These are just some of our happy participants. It's really great to hear their experiences and feedback, but these are some of the new cars that our participants have purchased. As a result of the ongoing advocacy efforts that you just heard about from Mark and Samir, an additional $25 million was provided in the state's budget for this fiscal year for air districts throughout the state that are operating vehicle replacement programs. And an additional $18 million in unspent funds was identified from CARB from their e-bike program that's also being reallocated to vehicle replacement programs throughout the state. So based on CARB's approved funding formula, plus an additional $1.4 million that we received legislatively for the EFMP program, our total share of program funds is $12.5 million that we can utilize for our vehicle replacement program. These additional funds will support our current application queue and backlog, and we'll work closely with Valley Can that if additional weeknight workshops are needed to support fully expending this funding, then we'll open those up at the right time. Some of our next steps is, should your board approve this item, would be to enter into new agreements with Valley Clean Air Now for their responsibilities related to program implementation. This includes program management and oversight, outreach activities, applicant assistance. And this is something that is really, I think, unique to our program. We're there every step of the way for participants, from when they're applying at these weeknight events all the way through being there when they purchase a vehicle. And they get all the support that they need to navigate this process. And then reporting information back to the district. And additionally, we'll continue to work with CARB, the legislature, and other stakeholders to try and identify long-term funding opportunities to help support continued implementation, as this is definitely a high priority for the district and part of our legislative platform. With that, the recommendations are here before you. It completes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Nguyen.
So you anticipate this amount of money will fulfill the applications you already have in the queue, and there may be some left over?
Yeah, based on, great question. And based on, what we have currently, those applications would likely take up this funding. With some expected dropout, there may be an opportunity along the way to ask for additional applications. We want to have a better idea of what the universe of remaining funding will look like before we go out and do that. What we don't want to do is solicit a bunch of applications that we may not be able to fund moving forward.
Okay. Dr. Pacheco Warner.
First of all, congratulations on just continued success on that program, and really being the top program in the state is no accident. And just really thank you to all the staff that helped make that happen, as well as Valley Can, of course. A quick question. I know that we have had a lot of concerns from the public as they were concerned losing out money on the e-bikes, and sort of because this was unspent funds on most of this funds, unspent funds on e-bikes. I'm wondering if in your new contractual piece with Valley Can, if there are additional educational materials or things that could be provided to the public, while not everyone has a vehicle to replace for an e-bike, there's certainly maybe educational things that could be benefited to help sort of bridge some of that gap that's been created.
Yeah, through the chair, I think that's a very good suggestion, and that we can work with Valley Can to incorporate that into some of the outreach activities. There are options under this program for e-bike incentives, and there's been a couple people that have been kind of interested in that, so we've helped kind of explore those opportunities. But at the end of the day, they decided not to move forward and kind of kept with doing their vehicle replacement. So I think there's some opportunities for engagement and additional information that we can kind of put together there.
Through the chair.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to,
Yeah,
I wanted to also just to Dr. Pacheco Warner's first comment around leadership in the program, and appreciate that comment. Just wanted to also just mention that with Dr. Pacheco Warner's role on the CARB board, given that CARB, basically oversees the program, makes the allocations. Dr. Pacheco Warner has been a big champion of this program within the CARB kind of deliberative process. There's spending plans, and it often goes to their board, and there's a lot of conversations about this program and a lot of competing interests with this program. So I just want to acknowledge that kind of going into this allocation, but also it's almost like a thank you in advance, because I think we are going to continue pushing for this, and it's complicated. It's a tough budget environment. And so we are going to need to see continued support at all levels to make sure that we can keep finding funding for this program. I just wanted to kind of, there's a key role there at CARB, and needing champions, as Dr. Pacheco Warner has been, to make sure that we can continue seeing allocations like these made.
Thank you. Councilmember Reyna.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question. I'm wondering how many vehicles will this replace, this money, and what emission reductions do we expect? Are we able to quantify that?
Yes, great question through the chair. This should support between 900 and 1,000 additional vehicle replacements, depending on kind of the mix and match of vehicles that are replaced. We are able to quantify emission reductions. The cost effectiveness of this program is similar to other light duty electrification programs. It can range from 100,000 to 300,000 or so a ton. So it's still a pretty cost effective program when you compare it to other sectors. As far as like the specific amounts from this additional funding, I can work on getting that to you, but I don't have that off the top of my head.
Thank you so much. I have an additional question, actually more like a comment. I know that we prioritize rural communities, disadvantaged communities. So I know I've seen this program come to Wasco at least once, but I'm wondering whether we continue to prioritize disadvantaged rural communities, and whether they can come to Wasco at least one more time. And I know that we have a queue already that most of this money will probably go to, but if there's the opportunity, I'd like to see this program, the people that manage this program, come to Wasco for additional applications.
So noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously a great program and so pleased with the support from the district and the success at the state level over 11 years. Always looking for ways to get more bang for the buck and branding. These cars should have a little banner on the side that says something about, clean air vehicle, funding via Cap and Invest, San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. We ought to, it's another way of getting the word out and advertising and normalizing the use of these vehicles. And, most owners of the lower emission vehicles are happy to talk to other people about what it's like doing this. So branding, take credit, take a bow.
If I could through the chair, one other idea just came to my head, probably a terrible idea, but you can also have those license plate things too, so there are some people that, are particular about having a lot of, stickers and things on their cars, but maybe there's some other things that could be done too to, help get that messaging across. So just building on your idea, hopefully. Yeah.
But I just told Supervisor McCauley, this vehicle is almost free. Follow me. So,
Is that part of your?
pollution free. No, but it's going to be now. Okay. Not seeing any more questions. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Any public comments in Fresno? I see one coming in.
Yes.
There's no way I could miss this every time. But again, Manuel Cunyanise Farmers, I think the greatest program you have is this car program. And again, with my experiences and with folks that I have, the staff treat all of these people with real and greatest respect and how they bring their papers in bags and you go through them and figure out what they need and all that. But I've seen first class of how, and Dr. Pacheco Warner, this is nothing for, but this would be a great example of how California Resources Board could deal with people dealing with trucking and all that, how to talk to people and how to present themselves, because the district does one heck of a job. Secondly, due to the discussion of how far reach, we've had some packing houses because we go to packing houses a lot in processing throughout the year, especially this year with the county health department. We deliver a lot of flu and COVID and masks and a lot of stuff. Our league does that. We do it weekly. We get a lot of requests. But to hear from some of the growers and the packers and managers saying that their worker drove up in a new car and they tell them, and they explained it, they got it from the air district and quite not knowing all the stuff, but that the air district helped them get a new car. So I think it's getting out there, but it's great to hear when my growers, our packers, tell us that this is what they heard from a supervisor. So again, the program absolutely must continue. It's way underfunded, just like Farmer and Agburn, but you've done one heck of a job. And I think your success is how you treat people in our rural communities. And if it's in Wasco or Tranquility, but you have done one heck of a job as a district and the board for your continual support of this and whatever funding we can get from the feds or the state and put it into that program for our rural communities is a very important part of it. But again, thank you very much for all the work, Brian, for everything you guys do with your staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel.
Any other public comments in Fresno? Seeing none in Fresno. Bakersfield, do you have any members of the public to comment?
No comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any comments?
No comments in Modesto.
Okay, we do have one online, Thomas Menz.
Hello, Thomas.
Almost free, follow me. That needs further. Yes, and if we could get those noisy, highly polluting internal combustion bikes off the road in favor of clean, quiet e-bikes, as Dr. Warner wisely proposes, that would be most welcome. But otherwise, take the money.
All right, is that it? Thank you, Thomas. All right, I will bring this back.
So can I make a motion? Do we need a motion to accept this?
Yes.
I make a motion,
Money.
please.
I second. Take the money. Okay, Dr. Sheriffs and Vice Mayor. Wynn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez.
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen,
Yes.
Ms. Shucklian.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right. Our next item is to appoint an ad hoc subcommittee for hearing board reappointments.
Yes, thank you. I
Nobody
will
scattered when I said that.
handle this. Good afternoon, Annette Balatori, District Council. Each year, we come to your board asking for volunteers, 2 from each region, to serve on an ad hoc subcommittee to appoint, to review, evaluate, and recommendations regarding reappointment of hearing board members. As you may know, each region of the district is served by a hearing board, which hears petitions for variances, orders for abatement, permit appeals, and related matters. Each hearing board, each 5-member hearing board must include by statute an attorney, a registered professional engineer, a medical professional, and 2 public members. This year, the 3 medical professional members in each region, their terms will expire on February 28th. And so the board must either reappoint these existing members or appoint new members to the hearing board. Again, we need 2 volunteers from each region to serve on this ad hoc subcommittee. I coordinate the process with the subcommittee members, typically via email. The time commitment is very minimal. There's no in-person meeting requirement. And so with that, I'm accepting volunteers.
Okay. What's that?
I guess just a question before we dive into that. Are we, if the 3 are willing to keep serving, are we able to reappoint them at this time, or do we have to do the ad hoc committee, or how does that work?
It does require board action. And so it does require a review by the ad hoc subcommittee, and then it would have to come back to the board via an agendized item.
Yeah. Okay, that was your question? Yeah. Okay, so do we have any volunteers? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, 2 from each region.
I'm willing to be a part of that, as
Okay.
chair.
That's
And
1 from the
vice chair.
south.
Oh, okay. Vice Chair McCauley, or
Okay,
Is it just supervisors?
I don't believe so.
You can.
it can be anybody.
Okay, 'cause I'm just hearing supervisors, so I'll volunteer for the northern.
Okay, and you had done that last year, so thank you again. Okay, a few more.
Where do you need it from?
2 from each region. So I need 1 more from each, 1 left in each region.
Okay.
Did Rosa do it from the
Wynn.
north last time?
Vice Mayor Nguyen from the south. Okay.
By unanimous claim.
Last year, Councilmember Scutia Brayton had done it in the
I
north.
think she'll do it again this year.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so we have 2 in the
text her
north.
right
We
now.
need 1 more in the central.
How many more in the center?
1 more in central. We have Supervisor McCauley in the central, so we need 1 more in central. Okay, and Supervisor
Yeah, it's your
Mendez.
last one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have them.
I'm willing.
So
Okay.
we are good?
So
Can
we're
you read
good.
those back?
We have Supervisor Shucklian and Vice Mayor Nguyen in the south. We have Supervisor McCauley and Supervisor Mendez in central. Council member Pro Mayor Lewis, Mayor Pro Tem Lewis, and Council Member Scutia Brayton in the north.
Perfect. And you will get a hold of us on what to do next.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Annette. All right, Our next item is a verbal report regarding status of vacancies in recruitment and retention efforts. Hello again.
Hello again. Adriana Majovich, Director of Human Resources. Yes, I'd like to take a few minutes this morning just to provide a verbal report on the status of our vacancies in recruitment and retention efforts included in the update. Starting with a high-level background here, Assembly Bill 2561 requires public agencies to provide a hearing on vacancies, including a recruitment and retention effort prior to adoption of the final annual budget. There are some specific regulations associated with this bill as well. One of them being if a particular bargaining unit's vacancy rate exceeds that of 20%, additional information and reporting must also be presented. While the district does not fall into that category, in fulfillment of this bill and the annual requirements, we wanted to provide the current district's vacancy rates, as well as include our recruitment and retention efforts for 2025. So I'll be starting with the vacancy rates broken into, the following unit structure here before you and go through this slide briefly. You'll see the number of budgeted full-time equivalent positions associated with that particular unit. And then in the next column there, you'll see the number of vacancies along with the corresponding percentage of that vacancy. So as you can see, we took a snapshot as the footnotes as December 31st, 2025. We had in that second column there, you'll see the total 364 budgeted full-time equivalent positions. 12 of those were vacant at that time, reflecting a 3.3% overall vacancy rate. So, bless you. With this vacancy data in mind, we wanted to highlight some of the key factors influencing these staffing levels and taking a little closer look as to what's driving these numbers, including our employee retention trends and the key reasons behind these vacancies. Looking at that here, we broke it down into the following reasons. You'll see the first one there. We had 2 vacancies that came about through staffing growth, new positions. We had 22 vacancies due to internal opportunities. So internal promotions, internal transfers, whether that's departmental transfer, regional transfer, overall movement within the district. The next one, you'll see attrition encompassing retirements and involuntary separations. We had 5 of those vacancies. And then lastly there, we had 17 vacancies of turnover, so voluntary separations. Of the 46 total at the bottom there, that reflects about 37, just under 37% for the year. Incorporating the 364 budgeted FTE positions, the calculation results in an annual staffing turnover rate of 4.7%. Taking into account the factors we've quickly reviewed in regards to the vacancy and the retention rates here, we wanted to briefly shift our focus to how we've successfully filled these vacancies, how we'll continue to address these vacancies in our recruitment strategy, and briefly review the trends that we saw in 2025, specifically what.
Can I ask a question on this slide?
Yes.
So that annual staffing turnover rate includes internal promotions?
The total at the bottom, or you mean
Well,
the
the
turnover,
annual
voluntary
staffing turnover rate of
separations?
4.7%, does that include the internal opportunities?
No, that
No,
just,
that
that just
does not.
includes our.
No, okay.
It just includes the voluntary, the line right above the turnover. Good question. Okay, moving to some of the recruitment statistics, again, for the 2025 year, broken down by the same unit structure. We had 28 recruitments total for the year. And the last column, number of applications, I wanted to note too, on the 28 recruitments, 16 of those 28 were promotional recruitments, meaning regular internal employees could apply. They're only ones eligible to apply, which left 13 open external recruitments, with a total number of applications for the year being 1,242. In addition to tracking the number of recruitments and applications, it's also important to provide a brief understanding of how we're reaching these candidates. So wanted to give a brief snapshot of the tools and the material we've used to market our positions in order to engage the best qualified candidate pool and to allow for a strong candidate pool in filling these vacancies. So here are a few sample recruitment materials before you. Our recruitment process includes a diverse range.
All right.
Of advertising channels tailored to the specific recruitment of each position. So in addition to advertising at local colleges and universities, we utilize platforms such as Indeed, LinkedIn, and our own internal media platforms. For roles that are more specialized, we also target industry-specific publications. For instance, we had an HR recruitment this past year in which we're going to utilize those specific HR publication and groups in the Valley in order to ensure we, again, are maintaining a high applicant pool, highly qualified. As always, one of the things we want to ensure that we're capturing overall in our recruitment efforts is to ensure we're including what makes this place a great place to work, our culture as much as we can, to get folks to kind of see how we stand out, how we're different. We want to include our competitive salaries and of course, include the comprehensive benefit package that working here provides. These particular snapshots were used for recruitments this year. And then the middle one there is a snapshot of our new retractable display center that we got to use at job fairs to kind of stand out a little bit. While those materials show how we recruit, what we use to recruit, the next slide here, we wanted to take a moment to focus on where we feel our recruiting efforts are effective and the foundation that supports both our recruitment and our retention efforts. STAR. So STAR is a foundation in all of our recruitment processes from the beginning through the onboarding. So whether that's the initial screening, the communication of that first step, the oral exam, the interviews, through the selection of the candidate, our job in HR is to ensure that employees feel welcome and supported through the process and use these STAR principles as a guide to how we're going to engage with these candidates. We will maintain high technical standards through our testing process. So whether that's a written exam, a test, or some sort of validated evaluation process, we're going to ensure that our high bar is maintained, but we're going to emphasize a positive attitude and initiative in our hiring and promotional decisions. This prioritization is present at all levels of leadership. It's supported and them also the hiring departments being engaged in the process as well. So this really requires intentionality and communication on many levels with multiple departments to ensure this philosophy is incorporated district-wide. We often receive feedback from employees that we have onboarded regarding our STAR culture. We got an email this week from a newly hired person also that really just results in a lot of pride on our end to hear maybe why they continued in this process, how they felt throughout the process. It's really positive to hear. And we view that feedback to be a meaningful indicator of how our STAR values are experienced in practice. And because of our STAR principles being consistently reinforced by leadership, our retention strategies we feel are more effective, contributing to this sustained low turnover rates across the district. So as mentioned, I think it's directly tied to STAR and the values that we make sure are present. We really can't separate our recruitment and retention efforts without incorporating STAR and the success of it. And the results we see are employees engaged and aligned and invested with the district's mission, contributing to our overall success here at the district and our effectiveness. So that's a high level presentation. That concludes my portion.
Do we have any questions? All right. Thank you for that update.
Okay, my pleasure.
All right, Dr. Pacheco Warner, would you like to give us a report on the CARB activities?
Yeah, so there is, and I think probably Samira will speak more to this, but we do have representatives from CARB coming down to the Valley next week. So thank you to everyone from the community and the Air District who are coordinating that to happen. I'm really glad to see that and hope more of it in the coming year. Also, as Samir mentioned earlier, I want to emphasize that there is a ongoing public process around Cap and Invest. And so absolutely, if anyone has any input or just feedback you want to give, please meet with me. Very important to hear from Valley Voices as to what you hope to see in this opportunity that we have upcoming, which will come fairly quickly. So I'm happy to meet with folks, and that's it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Executive Director comments.
Thank you, Chair, and hi to the board members and public again. Happy New Year. I want to say that again. Hope everybody's having a great New Year so far. Just to build on Dr. Pacheco Warner's comment on the event that is planned for next week. There is going to be an event, and just want to express appreciation for Chair Lauren Sanchez, who is coming down to the Valley at the end of next week, joined by any board members that are able to make the event, including the chair, which we very much appreciate, and other elected officials, again, that would also be available to support the ongoing conversations around farmer and some of the other needed incentive funds. The event will profile the successes that we've seen with those efforts and the need for continued investment in those efforts. Kind of on that same theme, just wanted to provide a quick report out on last year's air quality, which was actually a historic level of improvement last year that we saw, with the caveat that the air quality data, continues to be, this is based on preliminary air quality information, but with a good level of certainty around it. We actually did see some tremendous improvements in air quality this last year. Just wanted to highlight some of those metrics, and of course, we'll be reporting more on this throughout the year as we look at our annual reporting and some of the other key items in the future. But just wanted to share with the board and the public some of the incredible progress that can be made when we do invest in technology, when we work together on everything from the residential wood burning strategy to some of the other work that the board has worked very hard to put in place. We saw the second highest number of good days across the Valley's counties ever, but when you couple that with a record low number of unhealthy days across the Valley, which were 5 days. So 5 days last year were unhealthy. That's the lowest we've ever seen. It was a record-breaking year in terms of our quality progress. So that's just something I wanted to share with you kind of on that front. I wanted to give you a couple of other quick metrics here, more specific to ozone and PM. So for ozone, we, for the second time only that we've ever seen, are able to show that all monitoring sites were at or below the 84 part per billion standard. So all across the Valley, record the lowest number of days that the Valley exceeded all the ozone standards. So the 84 part per billion, the 75 part per billion, the 70 part per billion, by far the lowest number of days that we saw exceedances of all three of those different standards. And then just continued this great success that we've seen with zero exceedances, again, of the 1 hour ozone standard. So definitely making a lot of improvement there. with ozone and the design value, and I'll share with you a little bit more about that later, continues to see improvements there, the federal design value. And then for PM, this is the first time that we've ever seen this, but basically the 24-hour sort of federally defined PM value, the 35 microgram value that we were working towards meeting for the first time ever, all monitoring sites across the valley were below that standard. So that's a huge improvement. And the lowest annual design value for the annual standard of 13.8 micrograms. So that's the standard that we just recently met at the 15 level just a year ago or so, and are now at 13.8. And so we're seeing some tremendous ongoing improvements there with PM. The lowest number of days the valley exceeded the 24-hour standard of 35 micrograms, and then just continued zero exceedances of the 65 microgram. That not too long ago we had large numbers of exceedances of the 65 microgram standard. So that's, again, showing some sustained progress with these different levels. And just close out with just on the federal, kind of the federally regulated side of what we call design values, which are the official 3-year kind of average metrics, are at record lows for ozone and PM. So both on the annual, the 24-hour, and the 8-hour. With all that said, I did want to mention that, we are in a stagnation period right now. And this was alluded to or mentioned during some of the comments earlier, just to contrast, a little bit with that progress that, the valley does experience some difficult meteorology, and we're seeing that right now with the stagnation. There's like the fog that's getting a lot of interesting attention on social media and nationally, with the last major fog event, now with this fog event, which is just one of the symptoms, I think, of these conditions that the valley can often experience during the wintertime. So we've seen some uptick in PM 2.5 for sure, and are ramping up our messaging. There was some media on this yesterday. We're going to continue making sure the public's aware of how they can protect themselves and also what they can do to continue helping to reduce our pollution. Under these same conditions, we would have seen substantially higher concentrations not too long ago. So I think the strategies are definitely paying off. We're not seeing the same peaks that we would have seen just a few years ago. But with that said, we have seen an uptick in concentration. So I just wanted to close on that note of just ongoing work with our residents, the business community, and others to keep marching forward and working with us to shave those concentrations down and build on the progress that we saw last year. So with that, Chair, I'm happy to take any questions from the board. Thanks.
The air is a fright. Please don't light. How's that? Jamie, you need some help on any of this stuff? Let me know. Yeah. Have my people call your people. All right. Do we have any director comments before we end?
I have a question.
Yeah.
That's a great report, and it's wow, fantastic staff. Whoa, good job, board. Good job. Incredible progress. Numbers that 10 years ago, we were working for them, but were we going to get there? So fantastic. Were there any exceptional event days last year?
I'm looking here behind me.
Or do we claim any?
I think last year, I think there were definitely some impacts, at different times of the year. But in the context of submitting demonstrations in a way that is relevant, say, to an attainment demonstration, I think last year was probably not a significant year for that. But I think that, and I'm looking at Shiraz and
The values.
So another way to say this would be these values are the straight values as recorded, without any sort of adjustment for any impacts that we would have seen. These are just the straight concentrations that were measured in the ambient, with all the impacts that we may have seen from some of the events that did happen last year.
Well, so there was some luck involved, but boy, prepared. Absolutely.
Yes.
And the notion of that sustained progress is so important. And I think that my question about exceptional events is, we're a public health agency, so we're a little bit like doctors. We're focused on taking care of things now. We're focused on short term, how do we improve things? But we also have to think, it behooves us to be thinking long term, preventive strategies that much of that was highlighted in the legislative platform, that balance and how to strike that balance. It's always a challenge. Sometimes are more challenging than other times. But from a public health standpoint, we have that responsibility. We also have to think about what's happening long-term, and how to have a positive impact in that. So great, wonderful numbers. Thank you for sharing that.
Supervisor Mendez.
Just want to thank Samir for, mentioning the weather, and the fog, because it's all weather related. I mean, you get early rains in the rainy season, then you're going to have fog the rest of the rainy season. And then when you have which we had the high fog when we had stability in the atmosphere. Okay. Because there was moisture there, but it had rained, but it hadn't rained enough to cause. So we get another series of rain events. Now we're definitely in the Thule fog, dense fog deal. And never forget Harry Geis, I don't think there's anybody in the room remembers who he was, an old meteorologist. There he goes. When the sun comes up, the fog comes down.
We know what he's going to do in his retirement, meteorologist. Guest meteorologist. All right, if there are no other director comments, just our next meeting is February 19th. And I also want to mention February 10th through 12th is the World Ag Expo in Tulare. And I'm assuming we will have a booth there.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, well, I will see you at the Ag Expo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.